The first thing that we need to be clear about in terms of accessing that power, whether we are going to take down Jericho or whether we're going to take down ATLAH or whether we're going to take down some other great entity or take down some giant, the first principle of the powers of the book of Genesis chapter 1, the first principle is the first fruit. And by that I mean the first tree that was planted, the first pear tree, first cherry tree, the first trees that were planted, the first trees that were spoken into existence were, and from it came the first fruit. And there were no fruit trees prior to God said, let there be. So we need to understand the power that's within the first fruit. If we want to access creation power, if we want to access the power to take down mighty giants, we need to understand there are powers that are within creation. We can access those powers now. And one of the ways that we do is by understanding the power of the first fruit. The first pear tree was a beautiful thing, and it was the first fruit. That first pear tree and the first fruit that came from the first pear tree belonged to God. We need to understand that. That principle is still available to us at this very moment. The second principle, and I'll do more teaching on this particular item. I want to teach something else today. This is not my main subject, as you know, the book of the law is, but I'll do more teaching on this, that we understand we can access creation power, the power that Adam had, the power of dominion, the power that Eve had if she had realized. So we have to honor the first fruit. There were no fruit trees. There was no fruit. And the first fruit belonged to God. That was the first pear, the first apple, the first cherry, all belonged to God. After that comes the tithe, where you take the first fruit, you take the seed out of the fruit, put it in the ground, and you'll get more cherry trees or pear trees or apple trees. But God did not come back on the 5th or 25th day and make more trees. The way you got more fruit was that you planted the seeds from the first fruit. And you were able to continue to get seed by every time you get a fruit harvest, plant the seed. It's called a tithe. It's 10% of whatever the harvest was at the time. We'll come back to that. The other thing is with access, now all of this, without this, creation would not move forward. Without the first fruit, without the tithe, the world of plants and seeds would die out. And so you got to plant the seed to get more trees, to get more fruit. So we need to understand that it is critical for creation to be sustained is that we honor the Lord with first fruit, or that we honor the first fruit principle, and that we honor the tithe principle. Otherwise, we'll have no more fruit after the first fruit trees are gone. Need to be mindful of that. Then there's another, probably you would not think about this so much as a power to be accessed, but we are told by God in the creation process of God told Adam and Eve, that law, that word still rings true for us today. We are told to be fruitful. We are told to bring forth fruit. Now, not talking about the fruit of the trees. We're talking about be plenteous, that we're told to increase. We're not to be lethargic or lazy or unproductive. We are told to be fruitful. That is to say, we are to create. We are to, and not in the creation process of God, but we are to do other things. We are to bring forth other things. God's given us the soil, do something with it. God's given us the trees, do something with them. God given us the world, do something with it. Be fruitful. Don't just sit there like a knot on a log. Be fruitful. We're told to do that. And we ought to think about how ways in which we are fruitful or not in terms of our lives right now. Simply because you go to work at a job every day doesn't mean that you're fruitful. What have you produced? What are you producing? What are you adding to humanity? Are you fruitful? These young men just sang a song that was recorded earlier, but they're being fruitful, pardon me, in their presentation. So we need to think about, we need to produce the tithe, the first fruit, and then we need to be fruitful as a third principle, and we need to be fruitful as a fourth principle. That is to say, to bring forth. So being fruitful is third principle, number 3. And number 4, where Almighty God told Adam and Eve to be fruitful. That's to have more children and to create. God was not going to come back on the 8th day or the 10th day and make another Adam, make another Eve. God was not going to come back on the 8th day or the 9th day or the 10th day and make another pear tree. make another peach tree. He said, if you use the first fruit the appropriate way, if you use the tithe the appropriate way, you'll be able to eat forever. But you got to plant the seed. You got to honor the first fruit. Then he told Adam and Eve, in the fourth principle, he told them, be fruitful. Yeah, I'm not going to come back and make another Adam. I'm not going to come back and make a baby for you, make your son. You do that yourself. You and Eve get together, Adam, and you be fruitful. I'm not going to come back and make the next man. I made you. I made the woman. That's all I need to make. From now on, y'all bring forth more children. Y'all stand up for this. Good thing. Somebody said, I don't know if it was me. I don't think it was. Somebody said this process of making more children was a fun thing. Plowing the field might not have been all that much exciting. So it didn't take a lot to get Adam and Eve to get together. But the principle here is that God was not going to make another man. He only made the man. He only made the woman. Somebody need to tell these homosexuals. Somebody need to tell these freaks right around here. Somebody need to tell them God didn't make no trans. God didn't make no, if you will, gay people. God made the man and the woman, and that's not where I want to go. Where I want to go is this. It's going to help you understand some principles about accessing power, how you can access power for your life. Understand that God only made one man and one woman. All the other men and women you see on the planet came from Adam and Eve having sex with one another. Is that right? So if you can see how plenished the earth is now, with apple trees, Johnny Appleseed, with pear trees or peach trees, Peachtree Street in Georgia. If you can see how plenteous the world is plenteous because God said, be fruitful. And if you will, trees were planted, seeds were given, tithes were given. You can also see, had they been disobedient and not given first fruit, and especially the first fruit, because one could have said, if I give this first fruit to God, what am I going to eat? But they gave, but Adam and Eve did, and so we have. If Adam and Eve had disobeyed God and not had sex, they'd be the only ones walking up and down on planet Earth. You may take your seat.